we tend to think that we're going to be surrounded by the same people indefinitely, or into this fuzzy, indistinct thing called old age, where hypothetically or in some form of an abstraction, a concept, we might even come to accept death taking place because it's a fact, but we just put it as a distant hypothetical possibility, but nothing to be invested in, nothing to be given a lot of credence to. But when someone asks us about it, of course, yes, it exists, but existentially, we push that aside while holding on to the world we know, the people, the relationships, as truly existing, as truly stable, as truly fixed, permanent, as truly something that exists on its own, where all we have to do is maintain it, maintain the body, maintain the relationship, saying, hello, I love you, this, that, etc. But none of these things will stay. This makes people very uneasy, to say the least. This makes people very, on many levels, upset even though they know it's a fact. They don't like to hear this. We don't like to be told, informed of the facts about life, specifically about the relationships, the people we know, the loved ones, the families, the company you run, the workplace, and everything else that comes along with that. We are working so hard to get it to a certain level of success, a certain level of functionality. We don't have time for life to come in and, throw a wrench into the mix and just mess it up. So we push as far as possible until the body starts showing certain signs. You wake up one morning and all of a sudden you notice an extra wrinkle, an eye bag under your eyes, extra unwelcome, totally out of the blue type of a sensation in the body. Or you couldn't get sleep as you had anticipated. It was supposed to be the case because you have an important meeting, this, that, the following day. This was not part of the plan. This was not on your agenda. All that I'm basically highlighting here is what we call samsara in Buddhism, which is the cycle of rebirth, where we have fancy names for things, right? Like nature, existence, the way things are, etc. But more than the word, we need to look at the role that this reality to which I affixed this label represents. How true is my relationship to this? My understanding? How true? This is it. That's a good way to enter into this. How true is my interpretation of life, of my children, of my family, of my parents, of my loved ones, of my enemies, of my neighbors, etc.? Even when a person, let's say from a Western perspective, Western heritage, Western cultural background, comes in and to Buddhism, and let's say by some stretch of curiosity, intelligence, or pushing through boundaries, and the many questions that we are presented with coming from the West, when we have the courage to explore and really break those boundaries and finally see the value of understanding, acknowledging rebirth, the principle of rebirth, which is completely scientific. When I say scientific, I mean that's what life presents. There's always change happening. Nothing stays the same. Even when a person comes to accept that principle of rebirth, meaning a being is here, they die, the energy is transferred, so now, there's that moving, constant, what we call in Buddhism, the continuum. Even a person accepts the fact of rebirth, it's still very lopsided, what I've noticed in individuals, because we have this anticipation or expectation, like a no-brainer attitude, one would say, vernacular, that the people that I have in my life, these people, myself included, and everybody, the next time we come back, it will be, of course, human beings. And that's the scenario. It can't be otherwise. Or at least something, either human or above, higher. That's not how it works. Because we have a higher potential. There's a bigger possibility. Huge possibility. The probability rules are against the person becoming a human. It's such a rare occurrence to have the human birth occur to us. So look around you. Look around the people that you know, silently, quietly, without telling them, without shocking them by speaking any of these things to them, in a sense, because everybody's on a different scale of appreciation of life, of understanding life, reality of how things are. Look at them, look at their faces, look at your relationship with them, and know that in all probability this is the last time you will see this group of people in this state as humans, and for certain you will never see it like this ever again. For certain, guaranteed, it won't happen like this again, in this shape, you in this role, with this name, with this person, in this context. But as far as the human being is concerned, as in being in the realm of human beings, both of you, or this collection of people, that probability is very, very, very slim to occur. Because we are more prone to doing harm than good. We are more prone to pursue our selfish goals than to being selfless. Now, this is not to kind of create this, terrible scenario or something like that. No, this is just, in Buddhism, at least Buddhism proper, the earliest form of Buddhism that we have, it teaches us to be matter-of-fact, practical. But how often do we actually pause to consider this? That my conditions, my situations is temporary. My conditions right now, despite all my efforts to nail it in place, when you go camping, I used to notice this when I was a kid, a few times we went out camping in the woods, and you put the pegs into the ground. You do your best. You put it at a certain angle. You tie it up with ropes and whatnot. to keep the tent in place. And that's all you could do. That is your responsibility in a sense, other than buying, the material, the right material, the, not so good material. But once the peg is in the soil, what type of soil? I was a kid, and sometimes they would give me, okay, just put this on the, ground and nail it in. Okay. So I had to do my job to make sure that the soil is not wet, of course. It's not muddy, of course. And it's not just soil. The more rugged it is, the more sturdy it is, the ground underneath you, the more it will be able to solidly hold this thing in place. And we haven't talked about the peg itself, the hook nail, and the rope. Will it hold? So it's already, you could see the precariousness of the situation, because it's all dependencies upon dependencies in order for us to get a certain outcome. And when we do, that doesn't guarantee that that tent is going to stay like that indefinitely. That's the problem. We want things to stay indefinitely in the best possible way possible. So in a sense, human beings, that's another reason why the Buddha called us human beings, himself being included in existence. We, in default mode, we are crazy. We are insane. Why? Because when you look at a human being and what we do, it's really, we see something, we know, we understand, but we nevertheless have a totally different expectation than what it will turn out. It's like squeezing grains of sand, expecting there to be sesame oil or any kind of oil coming out from the other end. That's not what the sand grains produce. If you had sesame seeds, if you had olives, if you had some other substance, then you would get some oil under certain circumstances. But to go there and pray to the grains of sand, squeeze and do everything and toil and struggle so much, well, you're only going to suffer extra. And that's what we're doing. We are suffering extra every day because we're trying to maintain something that is unmaintainable indefinitely. Temporarily, yes, you can. And that's what life is. So these cycles of rebirth that we go through, out of which a small possibility is there, a small percentage there is for us to be born human. So it's not the norm. That's what I'm trying to say. And this is not, Bhikkhu Candana's opinions about this. This is what we see in the teachings. Not just the teachings in some texts, but the facts. Once a person meditates and goes deep and understands, and it's verifiable by all those who go deep. And you start seeing what the Buddha says, yata bhutang pajanati. You start to see how things come to be, how they unfold. So you start to break through the corruptions of the mind. You start breaking through the delusions of the mind, the lies we tell ourselves. You figure out that this isn't like you're going to Disneyland and all of a sudden you're seeing that you don't buy the stories you told yourself, the fairy tales. You're going along with it. You're there. It's like being at a magic show. And you figured out, you actually went and saw the backstage workings of what the so-called magician was doing, all the trappings, all the different things, all the different secret chambers and the secret pockets in his, in his outfit, where the rabbit is, where the dove is, where the this is, where the flowers are squeezed into. It looks like a suit. It looks like a nice, decent suit. A little bit bigger, but hey, who cares? But then all of a sudden he's pulling out these things, and people go, oh, wow, wow, wow. Let's say you go back and you sit alongside your friends in the audience, your family in the audience, and you're looking back. You're not going to be seeing a magician doing wonders. It's impossible, because you saw. The jig is up for you. That's why everyone in the audience will suffer tremendously. Because life, with the 6 senses, the 5 physical senses that we have, plus the mind, keeps throwing at you so many different types of impressions, experiences, so-called, things to work towards, goals to establish for yourself, and then to go reach for them, to try to accomplish them, etc. And life's challenges. All these things make you believe the soap opera, the TV series, the TV novella, whatever you want to call it. We start believing that. That is us believing the magician and the magic show that he's got, he's been, putting us on for us to see and be mesmerized by. So samsara, in other words, would be, I like to call samsara a mess. Why a mess? Because the loved ones that you're looking at, the people that you know, the people, not just your loved ones, by the way, the people on TV, the people on the news, the people on around you, the teachers, friends, whatever, colleagues. The reason why they are human is because at one point or another they did maintain a pure way of living. They abstained from living immoral lives at one point, for which reason they take the human birth. It has a requirement, a set of requirements to be born human. Ever wondered why there are more insects than humans? More animals than humans? Despite the fact that we're over 8 billion, but it's nothing. Your gut has billions and billions, hundreds of billions of stuff in there. They have their own kammas, right? Each of those bacteria, or bacteria, plural, each of them, each bacterium has its own kamma. The amoeba that exists in the mud or somewhere, put it under a microscope. It's a single-celled organism, you look. But that is not how or what it was all the time. We never think about it. Oh, it's just an amoeba. Oh, it's just a flea. Oh, it's just a bird. It's just an elephant. Oh, it's just a human. It wasn't always like that. It will not always be like that. That's the thing. Now, when we are no more human in this life, life comes to an end, chances for us not to be human for a long time is greater. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, by the same token then, what does that leave? How does that situate these people around me whom I love? That should be a big question also. And such a question, in order for it to be asked, we need to first pause and truly be honest with our lives, our choices, the way we're living life. If there's a big chance that I'm going to end up not human in my next birth, or at least few births, what does that say about those people that I love? Well, Remember what I said about the very, very dim possibility that you will ever be human, like in that setting, in that, with those people? That's the norm, unfortunately. When we talk about the importance of maintaining sila, ethics, morality, when we talk about cultivating, purifying the mind, when we talk about gaining insight, pushing through difficult times by not losing your integrity, maintaining truth, doing good deeds for others, being generous with the resources you have, instead of hoarding them, instead of tying yourself up to them, chaining yourself and thinking that that's going to be yours and you're going to maintain, you're going to keep it for, a terrible day, instead of making use of it by helping others. Well, because you did those things, you actually helped others, because you cultivated a pure heart, because you tried to understand, that you ended up being a human being now. So in essence, a human being, every human being now is cashing in on their good deeds from the past. You are simply enjoying the fruits of yesterday. That's why you're a human being. The biggest names in the world today, the powerful so-called people in the world today, any influential person in the world today, people who go and listen to them type of people, they're in that position. Or people you consider to be lucky. There is no such thing as luck, by the way. It's just that that person has done so many good deeds in the past, and now whatever they reach and for and do something, all of a sudden it turns incredibly successful. And then people compare themselves to such individuals and say, well, I'm trying 10 times more than that person, so it's like it's unfair. Or that person just simply knows, is more connected. Or is married into the right family, right, genes, right race of people, right community, right country. That's why they're successful, not me. Well, no. The actions we've committed. So today we are simply enjoying the fruits of our yesteryears, lives as human beings, as beings who have done good deeds to others, for others, while also maintaining pure lives. So how many of the people in your life are doing that? That's my real question. And to make sure that they live ethically sound lives, compassionate lives, giving and taking care of others, bringing peace into the world instead of torture and pain and suffering for others. When you consider other people and their needs ahead of yours, already you're setting yourself up for success. Not even just, not just human being. You might end up being reborn as a deva, as a god. But the lowest thing you should be targeting should be a human being. That's what I'm trying to say also. But first we have to check to see, does the lifestyle I'm following, I'm leading, is it conducive for that of a human being? Because many, 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 many people in the world today are not living appropriate to what our species represents really. Intelligence-wise, in many cases it doesn't exist. Integrity-wise, it doesn't exist. People are like teenagers, adults, powerful people in powerful positions. They are attacking each other. And I'm surprised. People who are on their way out in their 80s, they sit down and just bicker and throw mud at each other, throw rocks at each other, and they're supposed to be civilized, educated, with degrees, in powerful positions. Do you play a part in that? Ask yourself. And if you do, stop it. Act your species. As we say, act your age, act your species. We've gone so far away from, being morally wise and conscious and ethically sound people. That's why you have rules in society. Ideally that's what the rules are for, because not everybody's in the same boat as somebody who is. That's why rules have to be instituted. And when you don't have rules, you have chaos. But even if you have chaos, the rule of samsara stands. Even though it's chaos in the sense of these relationships disappearing. That's why you're never going to end up in the same family again, the same way it is now, ever again. That sister, that brother that you see and you love or don't love, as the case may be, that's it. That's it. That will never happen again. The body you have. So instead of looking forward for another birth, ask yourself, well, what guarantees do I have that the next birth will be human? That's number one question. The odds are against you to be, reborn as a human, next birth. It's always against us. Because the tendency to do evil deeds, bad deeds, selfish deeds, actions, to say the wrong thing, to do the wrong thing, is far greater. Why? Because we don't live according to virtuous principles. And that's why it is extremely important. You judge a society, you judge an advanced society by the presence or absence of its virtues, values. That's what it is. Not the pretense of it, not the, make-believe aspect of it, how it looks on the outside. You look at the wonderful constructions we have throughout history, throughout humanity. Some of the most intricate work that we've done. It's like awesome. The things that we human beings have created, and here, there, this, that. But then you transport yourself back to that time, like the huge Gothic cathedrals, the big mosques in Iran, in Central Asia, the intricate mosaic work in Alhambra and other places, in India. And you're like, wow. Okay, wow, I get it, but let's look at the lives, the quality of lives of these people that lived at that time. Were they truly virtuous? So the constructions don't mean that they did live such noble lives. Same way you wear a nice suit, or you go and the queen, the king, the president, whatever, they put that crown on their head, or somebody does for them. They live in nice places, this and that. They wear nice shoes, nice outfits. They speak even in some cases, eloquently, very erudite. But then you need to look at the substance of their behavior, their actions. Because samsara is a mess. As far as your relationships are concerned, as far as the world that you know is concerned, because it's not as crisp, as nice, well-defined as you would like it to be, with the things that you like being there. Like you go into a movie or watch a movie, and you look first at the cast of characters, you look at what the scenario is about, so you look at the synopsis, and then you go in expecting certain things. Samsara isn't going to be treating you such a dish. Because you don't know how much, what kind of lives you've had, how many different types of actions you've had that were not ideal. By the way, about whom you have no clue. I mean, the nature of which you're oblivious to. You don't know the terrible, terrible things that we've done in the past. That's why the odds are always against us that we're going to end up human. Why? Because those few times that we have, that's why we're human now. That's why your eyes see. That's why your legs work. That's why one person lives long, the other person doesn't. They die at a very young age. Well, they died because they took somebody's life in a past life. Plain and simple. They live long because they've done other things for other people, good deeds. They've taken care of the elderly, for example. Or they were parents and they took good care of their children. Today you hear stories, you read stories about parents that don't deserve it. They had locked up their children or exposing them to terrible, terrible things. Torture and all kinds of assaults and abuse. Parents, their own children, their biological children, they exposed them. They put them in chains for months. Well, what kind of a life do you think is, or what kind of an existence do you think these people, once they're dead, even though they're now serving time, many of them, in jail, this is not the end of it. In their next birth, that won't be possible. It won't be possible for such people to be human for a long time. We never consider these facts. So we have a very rosy image of samsara, even when a person comes to rebirth, simply because now we think differently. We expect these teachings to kind of help us to all of a sudden overshoot or transcend our choices. It won't work like that. New choices have to be made. It's not just about, oh, I think like this now. Okay, what about your life, the quality of your actions? So stop, thinking that this is the status, that you will have next life. You will maintain this life, this type of... So now it's always a progression. Always a progression. No. You're human now, but you can think of it as an accident in the grand scheme of things. There's a bigger possibility for us to turn into animals. Those insects and bacteria, they were not like that all the time, And those are observable, visible from the visible world, something that we can still relate to, the animal kingdom, the animal realm. And that's why the Buddha's teachings are all about breaking the cycle of samsara, coming out of this mess. That's why he says, where is your refuge? Is it in a relationship that you have with this loved one that you really, really struggle, both of you, to maintain? Is it in the family that you've built for yourself? A beautiful family. How about your beautiful job or something that you're proud of? Is that your refuge? Or a country? You found yourself in a country that's stable, so-called stable. There's no such thing. Oh, the system works. Oh, we work for justice. We do. Okay. It's very fickle, just like your body. You can't pitch a tent there that's stable, that's going to give you shelter. So you break through that samsaric, terrible, miserable mess. And you take charge of your life. That's why we practice. To come out of this life, because the Buddha would ask the bhikkhus, the monks, he says, where do they think they could find peace? And then he says, nowhere in the 31 realms of existence will there be ever any peace found, because in time even from the most sublime, so-called sublime states, they will fall. A human being. We have been there. The Buddha himself had been many times king of gods. He had been Sakya, he had been Brahma, he had been all these positions. Not just him, by the way. Most of us have, because we are talking about beginningless time. The brain, the mind has a difficulty understanding such a concept, because it does not have a beginning. That itself is tremendously challenging for the mind to even conjure up a perception, to wrap itself around. Be that as it may, it doesn't change the fact. We have been, as there's another saying in Buddhism, we have been each other's mothers. We have known each other. All of us, including that bacteria colony. The butterfly, the hummingbird. The evil person over there on the screen that you have so much animosity towards. We have been their mother. They have been our mother at one point. It's very painful to stay in samsara, despite the bells and whistles that we promise ourselves that, oh yes, if I stay, if I do it this way, this time around. You know how many this time arounds you've actually said to yourself, convinced yourself that it's a worthwhile effort to still have longing, craving, yearning for this or that, which is the reason why we end up, that constant thirst drags us from life to life. We always have unfinished business. There's nothing noble about that. So putting an end to that is the work that we do. However, for the average person who's not interested in any of those things, well, just to ask the existential question. The people that I'm living here with or working with, what are the odds that we're going to stay like this forever? Is there such a thing? No. Okay. That creates a certain sense of sadness, malaise, a certain sense of dis-ease, suffering. In Buddhism we call that dukkha. But we don't stay there, otherwise we'll be very pessimistic. Energy will drop, your immune system will drop, you'll be in a bad mood, you'll be depressed, clinically depressed, some people say, right? That's not it. You see the dukkha, you see the absence of something, you realize the jig of the illusion that the magician was pulling off. So there is a disappointment. You realize there's no Santa Claus. Okay, you realize that. Okay, so you have to get over that disappointment. But you don't go back and believe in such things again. You say, okay, there's got to be something bigger than this then. Because many people have gotten stuck in that world, and then they choose a life where now they do things out of character. They live very non-virtuous lives. They become very self-focused and almost, destructive. That's not it. Dukkha's purpose is not that, to turn you into destructive. It needs to bring light into your life. And that's what it does, exactly. If you play your cards right, as they say. If you do your due diligence and look at, okay, now I see this. What teaching is there that helps me to break through? Is there a way to be free from suffering? Yes. Yes, absolutely. By no longer wanting to grab onto this that has such an appeal to me, such an attractive force on me, that already is, you're on the right path. That says that, you feel it already. You're not sitting there chaining yourself to the audience seats and to convince yourself, no, I'm going to start to re-believe the magician, that his tricks are real. I'm not seeing it, I have to see it. No, you've overcome that stupidity, that craziness that I was referring to also earlier. People are, very silly or very, So you break through that by your new choices. And that is what's going to take you straight to, at the very least, another human birth, if not more. I'm not talking about more as in the other realms, maybe, but the ultimate goal of this Dhamma, this teaching that we have from the Buddha, remember, it's practical, it's timeless, is to help us break through this vicious cycle of the mess, samsara. And the way to do that is to see with penetrative insight. You get to see, you have the knowledge and vision. You start seeing the three characteristics of existence without extra effort. You just see it in that relationship. You're looking at your loved one and you see anicca, which is impermanence. You see suffering, and then dukkha. And then thirdly, you see the fact that there is no essence there in the other person. It's just a matter of conditions coming together at a certain point in time. That's it. That I've given it a name, a label, a relationship title, etc. That's called anatta. Once you start seeing these characteristics happen in front of you, around you, in everything that you hold so dear to you, that dearness falls apart. Well, guess what? You are breaking the chains, the shackles that have bound you all throughout samsara. And the more you practice, that's when we say the person is able to, with what I mentioned earlier, yata bhutang pajanati, to see things as they come to be. As you're doing that, as you're going through, and it's all through your own efforts. Okay? What then it does turn into is your life becomes a series of discoveries on a daily, moment-to-moment basis. So you're no longer the other person that you were some time earlier. People won't recognize you. And what that means is we each are on a different trajectory. That's something that you need to acknowledge as well. That means the loved ones, those people you hold dear in your life, the position, this, that, the relationships, each of these, as I mentioned, they're all conditioned. They're temporary, they're impermanent, and because they're impermanent, temporary, they will cause you suffering. They are suffering already. You just haven't seen it yet. But the moment you see that these things are transitory, there is pain, there is suffering, and that's why you keep on putting yourself back into this new trajectory of breaking through, breaking free, liberating. That's called moksha or vimutti, liberation. Okay. Your trajectory and someone else's trajectory don't have to be the same. They are not the same, that's the thing. Because most people will not be listening to this. They won't be interested in this. They will turn it off. They will look the other way. Because what this is a revelation of, the revealing of, exposing of samsara for what it is, the mess. What the majority of the population does want, however, is the belief, the wanting to believe the magic show. Wanting to believe the magician's tricks to be true. Even though you went and you told your friends, hey, by the way, he's got a dove up in his sleeve, he's got a duck, he's got that thing underneath him is actually a door. There's somebody else in there. They put the thing, cover it up, and all of a sudden it's like a changing room on stage, and he goes in and booms, a matter of millisecond, this woman comes out. Wow. No, I've seen the person hiding there. They won't believe you. They won't believe you. That means that person's trajectory is different than yours. So please don't hold it against yourself, at least. Because it takes effort for you to maintain this trajectory, and it will definitely take us, effort of consistent work, of choosing the right action, the right thought, right physical action, right thought, right speech, as you engage life with living purely, with purity, with ethical standards that you're proud of, that your ancestors will be proud of, that your, future offspring will be proud of, that the higher beings are proud of, including with your generosity, including with the way you are constantly purifying your mind. And the quest to understand wisdom, that is it. Wisdom will allow you then to maintain that trajectory without extra toil, extra effort. Because it shows you there's less suffering if I maintain this. Meanwhile, others in your life are not. They're going in a different direction. That's the way things are. And we don't collectively become free or freed. It's an individual choice. And you can't force anyone to, hatch out of the egg, come out. That's not possible. Nobody was cracking the egg, for a Buddha to show up, or an Arahant to show up, to come out, the chick to come out of the egg. No. It's all an individual effort from the dweller inside the egg. You have to crawl your way out. You have to use your beak and your, whatever, get out from there on your own. So, seeing the suffering, seeing the dissatisfying or unsatisfactory nature of existence with clarity drives that inner dweller of that egg to burst through. It's an individual effort. And that's what all these things that I keep answering these questions, I keep, having these things out there. Why? So that individuals could have the right tools. There's hundreds of talks, hundreds. Because I see suffering around me. That I have to, in a way, because questions are coming. They have to be answered to the best of my abilities. So, may they be of help. Sukhiyot.